and today I'm finally filming my review of House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I think my nails are extremely appropriate for this review considering they're newspaper nails, and it reminds me a lot of Johnny Truant's sections in the book because he used a typewriter. Now I'm sure for those of you who have read this book or watching this video, you can understand why we're reviewing it, and especially giving a short plot summary about vaguely what it's about is extremely difficult. Overall, I should say up front, if you want a good, complex, creepy read and you don't want to know anything going into it, I would recommend this book, so you might want to just exit out of the video here. Even though it is going to be spoiler free, I think a lot of people would enjoy going into it not knowing anything. On the other hand though, I think a lot of people don't pick it up because it is this giant tomb of a book and they just think maybe I won't get it, maybe I just won't understand anything that's going on. And I think knowing briefly about what it's about going into it would make people a lot more likely to pick it up. So briefly what the story is about, it is a frame narrative, so it is a story within a story. Some people would say within a story within a story. But at its core, there is a tattoo artist assistant named Johnny Truant. He's living in LA, and an old blind man named Zampano, I apologize if I'm pronouncing any of these things wrong, he passes away, and when Johnny goes into his room, he comes across these manuscripts that the blind man has written. Now what Zampano has written is essentially, I guess, one word you could describe it as a dissertation about a documentary called the Navidson Record, or Navidson Record, I say Navidson. There's essentially a documentary shot sort of Blair Witch style about the Navidson family that moved into this small country home in Virginia. Navidson is this famous photographer, his wife is a former model, and they move into this home with their two children to kind of just reunite, regroup, and come together more as a family. But once they move into the home, Navidson recognizes that the inside of the home is just slightly larger, a quarter of an inch bigger than the outside. And for much of the story, he's hiring people to just investigate and go deeper and deeper into this home. So getting into what I liked and did not like about the book, one of the biggest and best surprises, for me at least, was how character driven this book was. I just wasn't anticipating becoming invested in all of these characters. So the way the story is written is anything that's in sort of typewriter font is Johnny Truant's point of view, and you do hear a lot about his life and his kind of sexual exploits and everything like that. But there'll be a section that's just written sort of in normal text that's about the family, and then below it in kind of footnotes will be Johnny in typewriter font commenting about the Navidson Record. I absolutely fell in love with Johnny Truant. He was equally funny as he was dark, and so surprisingly clever and witty and funny. I wish he could have just come to life so I could have just given him a hug. I really love the commentary in the book about Navidson's sort of need to explore, and with that they're kind of talking about man's in general need to explore and push beyond, even when you know there's nothing there. I enjoyed his wife Karen, but at the same time I do wish there were better female characters in the book. There's essentially just her, and I felt like Karen, you know, this used to be supermodel who's now adjusting to be a house mom, was just kind of going from one stereotype to the other. But I liked her character, I just wish there were better females in the book. Navidson's brother, who unfortunately I'm blanking on what his name was hilarious, and I'm sure he's a lot of people's favorite character in the book. A lot of people do describe this as a horror novel. I would say it's more so a novel of physical and kind of mental exploration that also is extremely creepy, and I'm sure to a lot of people generally just downright scary. I didn't find myself not being able to sleep at night like a lot of people, and I'm not to say that like, ah ha ha, I'm so brave, but I've just read and seen a lot of horror novels, so it kind of takes a lot for me to get really scared. But I did find this extremely creepy, and a lot creepier than a lot of books that are just straight up horror novels. It does kind of get under your skin, and you'll probably never look at doorways or hallways the same way. It's an extremely experimental book, obviously in style. I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you just Google it, you'll see how the fonts and everything, sometimes it's upside down, sometimes the words are swirling. I loved how anytime the word house appears in the story, it's written in blue. I have to say though, I did find the first section and maybe even first third of it, even fourth, much creepier than the last half. Reading the book, I was on edge a lot, but that wasn't so much because I was scared, but it was because I became so invested in these characters and I didn't want anything bad to happen to them. The writing I thought was beautiful. I'm not going to give anything away, but you see letters from a character at the very, very end of the book to another character in the book. That writing I thought was especially beautiful and equally creepy and insane. I know a lot of people aren't a fan of physically how the font is set up, with a lot of times just one word being on a page. For the most part, I did enjoy that. I thought it did a really good job of helping you to really put yourself in the character's shoes. If you read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about, but physically how the words are set up really matches to what's happening in the story. But at the same time though, I can see how people would find that a little bit cheesy and a little bit annoying when you're having to hold the book upside down, but there really isn't so much of that. One of the reasons House of Leaves has such a big following is when the book ends, and again, I'm not going to give anything away, it is completely open to your interpretation. Now, I know a lot of people become sort of crazy obsessed with this book and read it 5 times and read all of the little footnotes, and I did mention Johnny Truant has all these footnotes throughout it, and I did read all of his, but there's also the sort of editor's footnotes or Zampano's footnotes where it'll be a list of, say, just 100 different castles, 100 different historical events or people. A lot of people might disagree with me and say, you know, you need to get your post-its out and read everything and try and take notes and figure out the mystery. I think when it comes to those endless lists of fake names, and which sometimes I'm sure were real, I think it's more so done for just for the overall effect of the book than it is actually figuring out the mystery. Now, I'm sure there are little hints for what the truth of the book is, but I don't think you need to break your back reading every single tiny fake footnote. And I think by doing that is what's causing a lot of people to not enjoy the book. Let me know what you think about that though. I know a lot of people might disagree with that. So overall, this is a fascinating read, like nothing I've ever read before. I wasn't entirely satisfied by the ending, but I would highly recommend it to pretty much anybody. I think this has become sort of like that hipster book with a cult following where a lot of people are like, you just won't get it, you just wouldn't enjoy it. I think honestly this is a pretty universally able to be enjoyable book. That was a terrible sentence, but you know what I mean. And if you want to delve deeper and figure out different interpretations of the book and what the author is getting at, there's this whole community online at his website, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and give the book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I would highly recommend it. Again, I wasn't super satisfied with the ending, but I loved the characters. I really enjoyed how unique the story was. And it's not just a creepy book. There's so much in the book that's very thought-provoking. If you've read House of Leaves, please let me know what you thought about it, hopefully without giving major spoilers down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.